Well, good morning, and welcome to another chapter of Transporter's Guide to the Galaxy. In this chapter, I'd like to discuss the key. Now, there is a method of making a living, and possibly a darn good living, at transporting vehicles from point A to point B, but it took me years to figure out the program. Here we go. The idea is to get as many live miles as you can and as few deadhead miles and repairs on the vehicle as possible. So here we go. Live miles. Live miles are the miles that you are paid to move the vehicle, pick it up, and safely and efficiently transport it to location B. You're paid for these miles. Deadhead miles are the worst moment of your life. These are miles that you have to travel to get from point B to the next vehicle, which would be a point A and a paid gig. But the deadhead miles are not paid. The transportation of yourself, the time, the repairs, the fuel, the pain in the butt, the tolls, hotels, everything is covered by you and comes directly off from your profit. And your profit is only paid on the miles that you travel. Hopefully your tolls and stuff are paid by the company. So you want to maximize your live miles, minimize your deadhead miles. So what I found is most effective is to work for more than one company. I myself, for the decade that I transported, worked for 3 different companies. Now, Company A is the best per mile and paying for the tolls and any expenses and any breakdowns in the truck that there is. That's my A company, and I'll give them first choice at any hours I have. My B company is the company that transports a lot of RVs, new RVs and used RVs. So to fill in the time and the distance, I would look for companies that don't line up with each other's busy season. So the utility company is pretty much the summer seasons of the year, and the bad times and the turn of the year also are very busy. The RV business is exactly opposite. So I would find companies that run opposite of each other so I can stay busy as many times of the year as possible. The C company is just gravy. It's a company that has red carpet rides, which are rides that pay everything. And I mean food, drinks, short hours, hotels. You don't do anything in the vehicle. You don't smoke, drink, eat in the vehicle, and you don't sleep in the vehicle. And this company pays you not to do that. These are very high-end show trucks or show RVs or personal RVs that you're transporting. That's company C. Now, the trick is to pick up a load and deliver it and make the minimum deadhead from that load to the next load that you can possibly do. So what you do is called plan ahead. So if you see that there is a ton of stuff moving in California or Texas, and I'm just talking out of experience, or Florida or the Northeast, I would go to the B company, which moves RVs pretty much anywhere US and Canada, and I would get an RV that's going to California, say, because there's lots of stuff moving in California to the wind farms or the electric companies or the flash flooding or any disasters that they have out there, forest fires a lot of times. And I will take an RV out to there so that I'm in position to work for my A company. The A company doesn't supply me with enough gigs or vehicles to work me year round. But between the two of them, I can stay pretty darn busy with very little deadhead. The C company just is something that pops up every once in a while. So let's talk about choosing your companies. When choosing a transport company, there are a few things to really look out for. They make a big difference. Number one in my book is make sure that you are moving for a company that is not a forced dispatch company. And what I mean by that is if they give you a load from Detroit to New York City and you get there and the vehicle doesn't pass inspection, or the tires are bulgy, bald, or it's nasty, won't run, the steering's bad, and you are with a company with a forced dispatch, you have to drive that piece of crap all the way to New York City through some of the worst roads in America. A non-forced dispatch is a company that cannot force you to take a vehicle. If it doesn't pass DOT inspection or the vehicle inspection, or something's wrong with it, or you get a funny feeling, don't take it. It's very critical you know going in whether you are forced or non-forced dispatch. Now, in choosing the companies, most of them pay you by the mile, but they pay different ways. Some pay mileage, so many cents a mile, like 38 cents a mile, or 31 cents actually in this case, and they pay all expenses. Now, they pay airfare to get you there, buses, trains, taxis, whatever it takes to get you to that ride and put you in that truck, and then you drive from point A to point B. Usually it's a new utility company truck or a wood chipper bucket truck or whatever. Now they're going to pay everything and all expenses paid, but when you sit down and figure this out, figure out you're getting 31 cents a mile. So let's say you went from Chicago to New Orleans, 31 cents a mile. Now they paid $1,700 to get you from Florida to Chicago, airfare, taxis, whatever, and hotel rooms. Now you go from Chicago, that took you a day. It usually takes you a day to a day and a half to get there. So you go from Chicago, you've gotten to Chicago, you drive to New Orleans, 2.5 days, you're in New Orleans, and you figured you have burnt up a week just going 1,100 miles, which is going to pay you 31 cents a mile, let's say 1,000 miles. So you've burn up 5 days to get one load. Now, when it all boils down and you figure out the hours that you spent to get to that live miles and drive and be paid, you figure out you're making about 2 cents an hour. Now, there's a ton of money out here to be made in transporting, but the driver's not going to get it. When you figured out that company, how can they pay all that hotel and transportation and everything? They're making a small fortune off these loads, but you're not getting them. You're getting 31 cents a live mile. That's not a dead mile, and it's not the miles that you, or not the hours of the miles you spent getting to the next load. So you may spend 2 days, usually it's a day and a half to 2 days, getting to the truck, and then the live miles start. So it sounds like a great deal, and you really get to see a lot of airport lobbies and bus terminal places overnight that you're waiting for a ride to somewhere out in El Cajon or Little Rock, Arkansas, or Rock Springs, Wyoming, that you have to wait an entire day to get a bus out of there because there's no good airport. I'm just whining here. So that's one of the deals. The other deal would be a company that pays you by the mile but does not pay the tolls or the interstate. When you enter into a state, sometimes you have to pay a tariff or a fuel tax, and they don't tell you that on the front of the job. So you take a job from Elkhart, Indiana, for example, to Los Angeles, California, and you're paid for the live miles. That's fine, but you find out that they didn't pay any of the tolls, or they didn't pay any of the tariffs, or they didn't take out the proper permits, because you have an over-width permit on an RV with an awning in Arizona. It's an extra $80 to get that permit. If they don't tell you, you got to buy it at the entrance point, the port of entry. Plus, Nevada, Oregon, several of the western states, New Mexico, and I believe Arizona, have a tariff or a tax you have to pay for moving a new vehicle across their asphalt. That can be $80 to $120. If you don't know that they have to pay that, and the company goes, oh, well, you're covering expenses from point A to point B, you've just been dicked out of probably $200–300, and you only made $400 on the move. That means that you made, for the time you spent, maybe about 2 or 3 cents an hour. So it's important you know which questions to look for and what kind of companies to pick out. Now, I've been talking to you about motorized units that have their own motors and they move themselves, but they're too big to move on a flatbed or whatever. This also applies to the public transportation people who take a plane themselves. They'll take an order, say from Los Angeles to New York. They'll take the order and then fly out to Los Angeles, take a train, a bus, a taxi, whatever it takes to get to the load, and then go from point A to point B, which you're paid. Those are the live miles. At the end of the job, you have to stop at point B when you get there and then calculate all the hours and the time that it took to get to that load, because you might be 1.5 to 3 days getting to that truck, depending on what the time schedules are for trains or whatever. Because let's say you pick it up out in the wind farms in California, which are north of Los Angeles, you might be an entire day or worse getting to that wind farm, or you're just going to say to hell with it, I'm going to get a hot shot, which is a driver that'll drive you anywhere. That's going to cost you $300 to $500, and if you're taking that out of your $1,800 you got to come across, it makes a pretty poor payout. So I'm just talking about motorized. If you're talking about haul and tow, which is a truck that will pull a trailer or another truck or a vehicle, or they have a trailer of their own that they load stuff onto, that's haul and tow. I'll get to that later, okay? Because I'm no expert at that, I'll find you an expert at haul and tow, and we'll discuss that. Please stay tuned. I'll check up with you and continue on the next chapter.